the Pons-Fleischmann cold fusion apparatus. In March 1989, chemists Martin Fleischmann and Stanley Pons announced they had achieved cold fusion, nuclear fusion at room temperature in a simple electrochemical cell. If true, unlimited clean energy could be generated with basic laboratory equipment. The scientific community was skeptical, and replication attempts failed. Cold fusion was dismissed as experimental error, but Pons and Fleischmann had filed patent applications before their announcement. The U.S. Patent Office initially accepted them for examination. Then, in July 1989, the patents were classified under a national security order. The official explanation: the applications contained information detrimental to national security. No details were provided. The researchers were told they could not discuss specific apparatus aspects, could not publish certain data, and faced prosecution for disclosure. If cold fusion doesn't work, if it's junk science, why classify it under national security? Why prevent discussion of an apparatus that supposedly does nothing? Some researchers believe cold fusion works under specific conditions Pons and Fleischmann accidentally achieved but couldn't reliably replicate. The patent applications might have contained critical details the government didn't want published because they would enable anyone to build a fusion reactor with basic chemistry equipment. The secrecy order was partially lifted in 2004, but key sections remain classified. Released portions describe the electrochemical cell setup, but redacted sections deal with electrical parameters and isotopic compositions allegedly crucial to the effect. Researchers with the Department of Energy clearances who accessed classified sections have allegedly achieved positive results in classified experiments. This has led to speculation that cold fusion is real, controllable, and being secretly developed by governments who don't want the technology democratized. Fleischmann died in 2012. Pons lives in France, having left academia. The patents filed in 1989 remain partially classified 35 years later. Whatever they discovered, genuine fusion or something else, the government decided it was too dangerous for public knowledge. The Tesla bladeless turbine. Nikola Tesla filed patents for hundreds of inventions, most publicly available, but several later applications were seized after his death in 1943, classified as sensitive to national security, and never released. The most significant involves improvements to his bladeless turbine that allegedly achieved extraordinary efficiency. Tesla's basic bladeless turbine patent, 1913, is public: smooth discs instead of blades, with fluid flowing between them. The design was elegant but never commercialized because it couldn't match conventional turbine efficiency. According to FOIA documents, Tesla filed additional applications in the 1930s describing modifications that allegedly achieved over-unity performance, outputting more energy than input. This is thermodynamically impossible, which is why claims were dismissed. After Tesla died in January 1943, FBI agents seized his papers and technical documents. Most were eventually released to his family. But certain documents, including improved turbine applications, were never returned. In 1952, Tesla's nephew petitioned for all papers to be released. The FBI acknowledged possessing additional documents, but stated some were classified under national security orders. The improved turbine patents were specifically mentioned. Why would an improved turbine be classified? One theory: Tesla's modifications enabled the turbine to extract energy from ambient environmental sources, functioning as a heat pump drawing energy from temperature differentials. Such a device would provide energy without fuel. Another theory: the turbine didn't achieve over-unity, but Tesla's applications described principles applicable to other classified technologies, possibly fluid dynamics in nuclear reactors or advanced propulsion. Portions of seized papers were declassified in 2000, but improved turbine patents were not included. Documents remain classified. Attempts to access them through FOIA have been repeatedly denied. Tesla died 81 years ago. The patents he filed remain classified. Whatever improvements he made, improvements supposedly defying thermodynamics, remain locked away as threats to national security. The Lyne Electrostatic Propulsion System. In 1950, physicist William Lyne filed a patent application describing an electrostatic propulsion system that allegedly achieved thrust without expelling reaction mass, violating Newton's third law. The patent was immediately seized under a secrecy order that remains in effect over 70 years later. Lyne's application described a device creating thrust by manipulating electrostatic fields. According to his later writings, legally prohibited from discussing specifics, the device generated thrust by creating asymmetric electrostatic pressure that pushed against space itself. The patent was classified before being examined for operability. The Patent Office never determined if it worked. Lyne received a secrecy order forbidding discussion, building, or publicizing the invention, with criminal prosecution threatened. Lyne spent decades fighting the order through legal channels. He argued he was a private citizen with private funds, that the government had no right to seize his intellectual property, and the device was non-military. Every appeal was denied. In the 1990s, Lyne published a book describing his experiences, carefully avoiding secrecy order violations. He described general principles without details needed to build the device. He claimed the government seized the patent because it worked too well, providing propulsion, eliminating conventional fuels and engines. Independent researchers building electrostatic propulsion systems based on vague descriptions have shown anomalous thrust in laboratory conditions. NASA's M-Drive uses similar principles, generating thrust without propellant through electromagnetic effects. These remain controversial because they appear to violate momentum conservation. The key question: does Lyne's classified patent contain missing details making such systems practical? His writings suggest the critical factor is specific geometric electrode configuration and precise voltage pulse timing. These details remain classified. William Lyne died in 2021 at age 84, having spent 71 years under a secrecy order preventing him from developing or profiting from his invention. The patent remains classified. Whether his electrostatic propulsion system was revolutionary technology or theoretical impossibility remains unknown. The Brown's gas production method. In the 1970s, Yul Brown developed Brown's gas, a hydrogen-oxygen mixture generated through electrolysis with allegedly unusual properties. Brown claimed the gas could weld materials conventional torches couldn't, burned at different temperatures depending on application, and violated conventional combustion understanding. Brown filed applications in multiple countries. The U.S. application was seized under secrecy order in 1977. Brown was informed aspects of his production method were classified, and he could not disclose specific electrolysis parameters. Unlike conventional electrolysis producing hydrogen and oxygen separately, Brown's process produced them pre-mixed in 2.1 ratio, an explosive stoichiometric mixture, but Brown claimed his specific method made the gas stable with properties different from simple mixed gases. Classified aspects apparently involve electrical parameters, specific voltage, current, and frequency characteristics allegedly creating different molecular structure. Brown claimed this produced water in a metastable state, storing and releasing energy differently than conventional combustion. After patent classification, Brown moved to Australia and continued development. He successfully patented versions there, omitting parameters that triggered U.S. secrecy orders. He established a company selling generators commercially, though they never achieved widespread adoption. Several researchers obtaining generators and attempting gas analysis reported government interference. Equipment was confiscated in 2 cases. One researcher reported visits from Department of Energy personnel warning him to stop analysis. The U.S. secrecy order was partially lifted in 1998, but key sections remain classified. Released portions describe basic electrolysis cell design. Classified sections deal with specific electrical waveforms and timing. Brown claimed crucial for unusual properties. Brown died in 1998, the year of partial declassification. Researchers trying to recreate his process report mixed results. Some replicate unusual properties, others achieve only conventional oxyhydrogen behavior. The difference may lie in classified details the government still considers too sensitive 47 years after the original order. The Farnsworth Fusor modifications. Philo Farnsworth, inventor of electronic television, spent his later career developing the Fusor, using electric fields to accelerate ions to fusion temperatures. The basic design is public and built by hobbyists. But Farnsworth filed applications for modifications that were seized and remain classified decades after his death. Public Fusor patents describe apparatus achieving fusion, but consuming far more energy than produced. A neutron source, not energy generator. But documents and colleague testimony indicate Farnsworth believed he'd solved the energy balance problem with electrode geometry and voltage modifications. In 1967, Farnsworth filed applications describing these modifications. Initially accepted for examination, they were suddenly classified. Farnsworth was told he couldn't discuss modifications, couldn't build the modified device, and company funding would terminate unless he accepted a classified Atomic Energy Commission contract. Farnsworth refused the contract, believing fusion should be developed openly for civilian use. The AEC terminated funding. His company collapsed. He spent remaining years bitter about suppression. According to widow Elma, testimony before 2006 death, Farnsworth had achieved brief periods of net energy production before patent seizure. She claimed the modified design created self-sustaining plasma configuration, requiring only small continuous power to maintain containment. If true, this would be fusion's holy grail, a compact device producing net energy without massive tokamak or laser fusion infrastructure. Classification reason would be obvious. Such a device would make fusion accessible to anyone with technical skill, bypassing government and corporate energy control. The secrecy order remains in effect. Researchers trying to recreate modifications based on other writings achieve only public Fusor results. Fusion without net energy. Interestingly, defense contractors work on classified fusion programs, allegedly using Farnsworth-type devices. Lockheed Martin announced in 2014 they were developing compact fusion fitting on a truck, matching Farnsworth's modified Fusor description. They provided no details and the program went quiet, possibly classified. Farnsworth died in 1971. Patents describing Fusor modifications remain classified 57 years later. Whether they achieved net fusion energy remains an unsolved mystery. The Hutchison effect apparatus. In the 1980s, Canadian researcher John Hutchison experimented with high-voltage Tesla coils, radio frequency generators, and Van de Graaff generators operating simultaneously. He reported bizarre effects: objects levitating, metals fusing at room temperature, materials becoming transparent. He documented these with video. Hutchison filed patent applications describing his apparatus and effects. Canadian and U.S. offices initially accepted them. Then both were seized. Canada classified under national security provisions. The U.S. issued a secrecy order. The Hutchison effect was dismissed as fraud or error by mainstream physicists. Skeptics noted effects couldn't be reliably reproduced and videos could be faked. But the seizures raised questions. If fraudulent or mistaken, why classify under national security? According to Hutchison, government agencies visited his laboratory multiple times. Canadian and U.S. military personnel examined equipment, documented setup, and confiscated components. He was warned not to demonstrate publicly or discuss specific apparatus configuration. Classified portions allegedly describe precise equipment arrangement, specific frequencies, voltages, and geometric positioning, supposedly producing anomalous effects. Hutchison continues experimenting and occasionally demonstrates publicly, but carefully avoids revealing the exact configuration, triggering classification. The classification suggests government agencies believed something warranted investigation, whether claimed effects or other phenomena the apparatus produced. Maintained classification for 35 fleet years indicates ongoing sensitivity. Some military programs have allegedly investigated similar phenomena. DARPA programs and classified research into electromagnetic effects on materials produced reports that remain classified but allegedly describe phenomena similar to Hutchison's documentation. The Hutchison effect remains controversial and unexplained. Patents describing how to create it remain classified. Whether Hutchison stumbled onto something real or created fraud warranting national security classification remains unresolved. The Moray radiant energy device. In the 1930s, T. Henry Moray demonstrated a radiant energy device, allegedly extracting electrical power from the environment without conventional power sources. He gave public demonstrations powering lights and appliances. Patents were repeatedly rejected, and documents later revealed informal suppression before formal secrecy orders became legal. Moray's device used detection tubes, components resembling vacuum tubes containing unique materials he'd developed. The device allegedly collected energy from ambient radiation, possibly cosmic rays, converting it to usable electrical power, demonstrating kilowatts in remote locations. When Moray filed in 1931, the Patent Office rejected applications as describing perpetual motion. But internal memos, released through FOIA decades later, show officials believed the device might work and were concerned about implications of approving free energy extraction patents. The Patent Office developed informal suppression policies before the 1951 Invention Secrecy Act. Applications were rejected on technical grounds, applicants subjected to unusual scrutiny, and officials quietly contacted military agencies about concerning inventions. Moray was visited repeatedly by officials demanding to examine his device. Equipment was confiscated for examination and never returned. In 1940, someone broke into his laboratory and destroyed his prototype. Moray suspected government involvement but couldn't prove it. After the 1951 Act, Moray refiled modified applications. These were immediately classified. He was told he couldn't discuss operating principles or build prototypes. He spent remaining life fighting the orders. The mystery: what was the device detecting? Theories proposed zero-point field energy collection, sophisticated radio reception from the distant transmitters, or fraud. But continued classification suggests government belief in something real to investigate. Documents show military labs attempted recreation based on demonstrations and partial information. Whether they succeeded remains classified. Moray died in 1974. Patents remain classified. His original prototype was destroyed in 1940. Whether his device extracted environmental power or was elaborate deception remains unknown. Government agencies considered it threatening enough to suppress for 90-plus years. The Podkletnov gravity shield. In 1992, Russian scientist Eugene Podkletnov published experiments with a rotating superconducting disk allegedly producing measurable gravity shielding. Objects above the disk lost approximately 2% weight. If true, this would be the first gravity manipulation demonstration with revolutionary implications. Podkletnov's paper was initially accepted by a peer-reviewed journal, then abruptly withdrawn under unknown pressure. Podkletnov claimed he experienced pressure to stop research after results became known. He was forced to leave his position and continue work independently. Podkletnov filed applications in multiple countries. The U.S. application was classified within months. The European patent was granted with key details redacted. Russia initially accepted, then classified portions. Classified aspects allegedly include specific superconducting material composition, rotation speeds and magnetic field strengths required, and geometric configuration producing maximum shielding. What's public? The device involves rotating superconducting disk, suspended in magnetic field, cooled to cryogenic temperatures. Replication attempts using public information mostly failed to observe shielding. However, several groups reported anomalous results not matching conventional physics. Unusual force measurements, unexpected weight variations, unexplained electromagnetic effects. In 2006, a Boeing Phantom Works group allegedly achieved positive results. Boeing filed gravity modification patents, quickly classified. The public program terminated, though insiders suggest it continued under classified funding. NASA's Breakthrough Propulsion Physics Project examined unconventional propulsion, including gravity modification. Public reports were vague. Researchers hinted classified experiments produced interesting results. That Podkletnov's patents remain classified 32 years after filing suggests something about his apparatus is considered sensitive. Whether the effect is real and reproducible, the apparatus produces other classified effects, or government wants to prevent research. Podkletnov continues independent work on gravity modification, carefully avoiding classified detailed discussion. Original applications remain under secrecy orders. Whether his rotating disk shields gravity or produces other classified effects remains a modern physics mystery. The Rife beam ray device. In the 1930s, Royal Raymond Rife developed a beam ray device, allegedly destroying bacteria and viruses using specific electromagnetic radiation frequencies. Rife claimed successful cancer and disease treatment by identifying pathogen-resonant frequencies. He filed patent applications for device and methods. Rife's patents were never officially classified because the Invention Secrecy Act didn't exist in the 1930s. But documents show applications were subjected to unusual delays, extraordinary scrutiny, and informal suppression by the Patent Office working with the American Medical Association. After Rife demonstrated successful patient treatment in clinical trials supervised by medical professionals, the AMA and pharmaceutical interests launched campaigns to discredit his work. His laboratory was vandalized, research records stolen, and doctors using his device threatened with license loss. But government interest went beyond medical establishment opposition. Military and intelligence agencies examined his device because the underlying technology, using specific frequencies to disrupt biological systems, had obvious weapons applications. Similar resonant frequency weapons were developed in classified programs. In 1939, Rife's applications were rejected. He was informed key device aspects wouldn't be patentable even with modifications. Specific frequencies and waveforms allegedly destroying pathogens were considered too dangerous, not for medical use, but because they could be weaponized. By the 1950s, agencies retroactively classified aspects of Rife's technology in their files from earlier applications and investigations. The Rife case is interesting because technology was partially suppressed for medical reasons, protecting pharmaceutical profits, and partially for national security, preventing frequency weapons development. The combination created a double barrier. Modern researchers producing machines emitting electromagnetic radiation at various frequencies report mixed results. The critical missing information is allegedly precise frequencies and waveforms Rife discovered, information remaining classified or lost. Rife died in 1971, impoverished and bitter. His device was destroyed, research records stolen or confiscated, patents never granted. The frequencies he claimed could cure disease remain unknown. Whether his beam ray was revolutionary medical technology or sophisticated pseudoscience remains medicine's enduring controversy. The Stanley Meyer water fuel cell. In the 1990s, Stanley Meyer claimed to have invented a water fuel cell splitting water into hydrogen and oxygen, using far less energy than conventional electrolysis, allegedly using resonant frequencies, breaking molecular bonds at quantum levels. The device would allow vehicles to run on water. Meyer demonstrated his water-powered dune buggy to journalists and investors. Meyer filed applications in the U.S. and internationally. The U.S. application was classified in 1990. Meyer was told he couldn't discuss resonant frequency generation aspects, electrode configuration, or pulsed voltage parameters allegedly making the process work. Meyer's claims were extraordinary. Conventional electrolysis requires more energy than you get back burning the hydrogen. Meyer claimed his process used only a fraction of required energy because it operated at molecular resonance frequencies requiring minimal input once resonance was established. Mainstream physics rejected this as impossible, but Meyer's demonstrations showed his dune buggy running on water, covering significant distances without apparent conventional fuel. Classified portions allegedly contain specific frequency parameters and voltage pulse characteristics supposedly producing efficient water splitting. Meyer was careful publicly to describe general principles without exact specifications, triggering the secrecy order. Meyer's story took a dark turn in 1998. After winning a fraud case against investors, Meyer met potential investors at a restaurant. He took a sip of cranberry juice, ran outside clutching his throat, and died in the parking lot. The coroner ruled cerebral aneurysm. Meyer's brother claimed poisoning, noting Meyer's last words, "They poisoned me." After death, his equipment was confiscated. Patents remain under secrecy orders. Inventors trying to recreate his cell report mixed results. Some achieve better than conventional electrolysis. Others cannot replicate the effect. Government classification continuation, 34 years after filing and 26 years after death, suggests either the technology has merit, authorities want controlled, or specific parameters could be dangerous in other applications, even if the water cell doesn't work as claimed. Meyer's story remains controversial. Some see him as a martyr, killed for threatening oil industry. Others see fraud who died naturally before claims could be debunked. Undeniably, patents remain classified, technology was never independently verified, demonstrations remain unexplained. The Johnson Permanent Magnet Motor. In 1979, inventor Howard Johnson received U.S. patent 4151 for a permanent magnet motor, allegedly producing continuous rotational motion using only permanent magnets, no external power. If functional, this would be perpetual motion, violating thermodynamics. Johnson's patent became famous as one of few permanent magnet motor patents granted. Less known, Johnson filed additional applications describing improvements and modifications, allegedly producing usable power output. These were classified under secrecy orders and never made public. Johnson's granted patent describes basic magnetic rotor configuration, but carefully avoids claiming net energy production. The patent describes a magnetic force generating method and apparatus, without claiming thermodynamics violation. This precision likely allowed it to be granted. Classified follow-up patents allegedly described modifications Johnson claimed would allow continuous power output sufficient to drive generators. According to associates' testimony, he'd built prototypes running continuously for extended periods with measurable power output. Classification came after Johnson approached major corporations and the Department of Energy about development funding. Shortly after these contacts, he received a secrecy order forbidding discussion of modifications or building new prototypes incorporating classified features. Johnson spent years challenging the order, arguing permanent magnets aren't classified and geometric arrangement shouldn't be classifiable. Courts ruled the arrangement produced effects with national security implications, even if components were mundane. Inventors building devices based on Johnson's public patent report. Devices spin when given initial impulse but gradually stop due to friction. And none achieved continuous operation, Johnson claimed. The critical difference is allegedly in classified modifications. Subtle magnetic field geometry changes overcoming back EMF and eddy current losses, stopping conventional permanent magnet motors. Why classify a device mainstream physics says cannot work? Classification suggests either the device works in ways physics doesn't fully understand, or specific magnetic configurations have applications in other classified technologies. Johnson died in 2008, still under secrecy orders. His basic patent expired in his public domain, but classified improvements remain locked. Whether Johnson achieved perpetual motion or discovered magnetic configurations with other classified applications remains unknown. The supercapacitor patent seizure. In 2012, a university materials scientist filed a patent for a supercapacitor design using graphene and novel dielectrics, allegedly achieving energy densities approaching lithium-ion batteries while maintaining rapid capacitor charge while discharge characteristics. The patent was classified within weeks, and the researcher instructed to cease all work. The inventor, identity protected due to ongoing classification, had published preliminary research showing specific graphene configurations with engineered defects could store dramatically more charge than conventional supercapacitors. Energy density improvements were so significant, the technology would make batteries obsolete for most applications. The application described not just material composition, but industrial-scale manufacturing process. This combination, revolutionary performance plus practical manufacturability, apparently triggered classification. A laboratory curiosity might be ignored, but immediately commercializable technology represented threats to existing industries and geopolitical energy dynamics. The secrecy order came with instructions that research could continue only under classified Department of Defense contract. The university was offered substantial funding to continue in a classified program. The researcher declined, objecting to military control of civilian energy technology. funding was immediately terminated, and the researcher instructed to destroy all samples and delete digital records. Several aspects are unusual. First, classification speed. Most applications take months to review, but this was classified within 2 weeks, suggesting immediate flagging. Second, the aggressive destruction order. Typically classified research is locked away, not destroyed. Sample destruction suggests authorities wanted to ensure the technology couldn't be recreated from physical evidence. Third, the university initially resisted, arguing academic freedom and noting private funding. The legal challenge was dismissed, and officials warned continued resistance would jeopardize all federal funding. The university complied. What happened to the research remains unclear. The researcher left academia and won't discuss work due to ongoing orders. The university claims all records were destroyed, but defense contractors subsequently filed advanced energy storage applications with suspiciously similar features, all immediately classified. This suggests technology may be real and developing in classified programs, possibly using original work without attribution or compensation. Or multiple researchers independently discovered similar approaches, all being classified to prevent proliferation. The case demonstrates suppression speed and completeness. From promising results, publication to complete erasure took under 3 months. The inventor lost years of work and potentially billions in value, with no compensation and no legal recourse. The room temperature superconductor claims. In 2020, a private institute physicist claimed room temperature superconductivity using hydrogen, carbon, and sulfur under specific pressure and electromagnetic conditions. Initial peer review was positive. The paper accepted for publication. Then the patent was classified, the paper withdrawn, and the researcher disappeared from public view. Room temperature superconductivity, zero resistance electricity conduction at normal temperatures, would revolutionize power transmission, transportation, computing, and medicine. The discovery would be worth trillions and dramatically shift global energy dynamics. It would eliminate many conventional conductor applications, destroying established industries. The patent described not just the compound, but practical synthesis method and maintaining superconducting state at room temperature using specific electromagnetic field configurations. Unlike many claims requiring exotic conditions, this method allegedly used relatively common elements and accessible technology. The patent was classified, and the researcher visited by officials from multiple agencies. Witnesses report the researcher being escorted from the laboratory by suited individuals. Laboratory equipment was removed, the apartment cleared, and colleagues instructed not to discuss work or the researcher's whereabouts. Initially, there were safety concerns, but months later, a message was posted to the researcher's professional website stating they were continuing work in a new environment and couldn't discuss details due to contractual obligations. This suggested recruitment into classified program rather than silencing. Replication attempts based on the withdrawn paper have failed. The paper was detailed enough to attempt replication, but exact electromagnetic field parameters allegedly stabilizing the superconducting state were described only generally, not precisely. Groups have produced the compound but observed no room temperature superconductivity. Critical missing information is apparently field configuration. Specific frequencies, intensities, and geometric arrangements somehow stabilizing the state. This was in the patent, but not the paper. Without it, the compound behaves as physics predicts. Major technology companies have quietly recruited superconductivity researchers and established classified programs presumably exploring similar approaches. These operate behind classifications preventing publication. Whether they've achieved room temperature superconductivity or pursue dead ends remains unknown. The case raises questions about whether transformative technologies can emerge through conventional research anymore. If breakthroughs are immediately classified and researchers recruited or silenced, how can science progress? How many researchers made similar discoveries suppressed before publication? The acoustic levitation, weaponization. In 2015, European university researchers demonstrated acoustic levitation using precisely controlled sound waves, a well-established phenomenon studied for decades. But when they published how the technique could scale to larger objects and filed a patent for apparatus theoretically levitating humans, the patent was seized by multiple governments simultaneously. Acoustic levitation creates standing waves in air-producing pressure nodes where objects suspend. Small objects like water droplets have been levitated for years, but researchers discovered using phased array speaker systems and specific frequency combinations could dramatically scale the effect. The application described apparatus using hundreds of synchronized speakers, creating acoustic fields, suspending objects weighing up to 200 pounds. Practical applications: moving heavy objects without contact, performing surgery on suspended patients without tables, transporting fragile manufacturing materials. But the patent also described physics of what happens to biological tissue in these fields. At power levels required to levitate humans, acoustic pressure creates intense tissue vibrations. The application included calculations showing slight frequency and intensity modifications could cause organs to vibrate at resonance frequencies. This triggered classification. The same technology levitating people could be modified to cause internal hemorrhaging, organ failure, or death without external marks. It was effectively an acoustic weapon blueprint, killing from distance without projectiles, chemicals, or radiation. The patent was simultaneously classified by the US, UK, France, Germany, and European Patent Office. Unusual coordination suggesting prior intelligence sharing. Researchers were informed work could continue only under classified military contracts. They declined and returned to other research. What makes this interesting? Basic physics is public and well understood. Acoustic levitation demonstrations are common. Classified information isn't the principle but specific scaling parameters, frequencies, phases, and power levels, making it work at human scale. These details apparently enable both peaceful applications and weapons. Several countries have acoustic weapons programs. Russia's acoustic cannon and U.S. long-range acoustic devices are publicly acknowledged, but have different physics than levitation-based systems. Levitation scale acoustics weaponization represents something different. A weapon leaving no forensic evidence, disguisable as natural causes. Researchers cannot discuss work due to ongoing orders. The technology remains classified. And somewhere in classified laboratories, the same principles are likely being developed, both for peaceful applications motivating research and weapons applications causing classification. The Advanced Ceramic Engine. In 2008, a mechanical engineer developed a ceramic engine design allegedly operating at efficiencies approaching theoretical maximum, using advanced ceramics, withstanding extreme temperatures without failure. The engine could run on any combustible fuel, required no cooling system, and produced minimal emissions due to complete high-temperature combustion. The patent was classified under national security order. The breakthrough wasn't just ceramic materials. Advanced ceramics for engines have been researched for decades, but engine geometry solving thermal expansion problems plaguing ceramic development. Ceramics crack under temperature gradients, which is why metal engines with elaborate cooling remain dominant. The engineer's design allegedly used specific geometric configuration where thermal expansion was self-compensating. As parts heated and expanded, they moved maintaining seals and tolerances rather than creating gaps or stress fractures. The design enabled operation over 3,000 degree, allowing complete fuel combustion and dramatically improved efficiency. The application included detailed engineering drawings, material specifications, and thermal modeling showing 60–65% thermal efficiency, far exceeding conventional engines operating at 25–35%. Such an engine would revolutionize transportation, power generation, and any combustion application. The secrecy order explained the design had potential military applications requiring classification. The engineer was offered a classified contract for military development, but declined, wanting to commercialize for civilian vehicles. Without the contract, the engineer was prohibited from building prototypes, sharing design, or licensing technology. The engine potentially doubling fuel efficiency remained locked in patent files, classified as too sensitive. What makes this frustrating? The technology addresses genuine environmental and economic needs. Doubling engine efficiency would cut fuel consumption and emissions in half immediately. Greater impact than decades of incremental improvements. But those characteristics apparently make it militarily sensitive. Several theories explain why. Military advantages are obvious. Vehicles going twice as far on same fuel. Ships and aircraft with dramatically extended range. Another theory suggests economic considerations. Such an engine would disrupt oil markets and automotive industries in ways authorities consider destabilizing. A darker theory: classification prevents civilian access to technology the military already uses. Several military reports describe vehicles with unusually long operational ranges and minimal heat signatures, consistent with high-efficiency ceramic engines not requiring cooling systems. The inventor has maintained compliance for 16 years, prohibited from developing their invention. Whether the engine remains unused or is secretly deployed in classified military systems remains unknown. Either way, technology transforming civilian transportation remains classified as too dangerous. These 15 patents represent thousands under secrecy orders. Technologies threatening existing power structures, military, economic, geopolitical, face classification regardless of benefits. Energy technologies eliminating fuel dependence, propulsion revolutionizing transportation, medical devices bypassing pharmaceutical industries, all suppressed under the same framework. We can't know if these inventions worked as claimed. Many probably didn't. But statistical probability suggests at least some of 5,700 unclassified patents describe real, functional technologies. Governments decided were too dangerous or disruptive for public existence. The Invention Secrecy Act grants nearly absolute power over private innovation, with no compensation, meaningful appeal, or transparency. Inventors lose control, society loses transformative technologies, and classification ensures we never know what we're missing. The cost is incalculable. How many inventors gave up after classification? How many never filed fearing seizure? How many technologies remain locked that could solve current problems? We'll never know. That's the point. Ensuring certain knowledge never enters public consciousness. 15 patents, 15 inventors, 15 technologies too dangerous to exist, and thousands more in classified files, their potential forever unknown.